we've had to put extra chairs out at every one of these meetings. So to me, that's a good sign. And not so much just because I do support the single desk, and I want to see weak board supporters out here, but the fact that people are here, and doesn't matter what opinion that you have on the board, you are at this meeting, and that's the important part. So this evening we talked about the events that have brought us here to this moment. Gord has reviewed the single desk and how it adds value back to you as farmers. I want to step back and look at the bigger picture. Again, why we're here this evening, what's really on the line, and what we need to do going forward. Because regardless of our individual opinions on the single desk, all of us in this room care about what happens to our farms, we care about the industry, and we care about the future of farming in Canada. Most of you know that I farm near Forestburg, Alberta, and I was elected to this board of directors by the farmers in my district. 9 other farmers served with me on this governing board who were also elected, and some of them have been introduced earlier tonight. As farmers, we pay for the CWB, and we run it. Yet now we find ourselves in the position without any say in what happens to it. We also find ourselves with virtually no information from government about how this change is supposed to serve farmers or what is supposed to happen next. And that's why we're holding this meeting here tonight. As elected directors, we want to be sure you understand all the implications of losing the single desk. And time is very short. In fact, we're virtually at the 11th hour. In a matter of weeks, the federal government plans to introduce legislation to remove the farmer's single desk by August 1st, 2012. Now, that is an extremely tight, short timeline for such a major decision. Wheat and barley marketing generates $5 to $7 billion per year for farmers, and with that kind of money on the table, this monumental change needs to be well considered and well justified. We need to be absolutely assured that farmers won't get the raw end of a deal that will affect future farmers for the next 100 years. All of this for no reason besides the fact that this is an issue that the government would like to check off its list in the first year of its term. In fact, when I met with Minister Ritz on May 31st, he acknowledged the difficulties that would be encountered with proceeding so quickly, but said he wanted to take his political lumps at the beginning of his mandate. Now we're here that the grain industry is enthusiastic about this change, and we can also see that our American neighbors to the south are also excited. But it seems to me that everybody's forgetting about the key stakeholders here, and that is farmers in Western Canada. So let's think about what we will gain with the introduction of an open market. Marketing freedom. What does that actually mean? In one sense, very little change. We'll still deliver to the elevator, get a price for our grain, but the major difference will be that we will no longer be getting all the proceeds from the sale of our grain. We'll get one price up front, and any margin will go to that company's bottom line. Which company? Well, those choices are getting fewer all the time. I guess if you live near the U.S. border, you may be able to haul to an American elevator as long as that border remains open. What else? Honestly, I don't see that much else. And I don't believe Minister Ritz or the federal government has a clear idea of anything either. Well, certainly we've heard lots of rhetoric and promises, but no hard analysis, no public policy rationale, no economic impact studies, nothing. And we've seen this kind of thing before. The most notable example was the prorate. That was a public policy instrument, just like the wheat board, set up for the benefit of Western Canadian producers. When the CRO was eliminated, we were told that it would lead to the growth of a strong and vibrant cattle industry and new value-added processing. We were also promised that efficiencies in transportation logistics and grain handling would be passed back to farmers. But what actually happened? We have borne the brunt of longer hauling distances, fewer elevators and branch lines, higher freight rates, and worse service. And any farmers who were on CP lines this winter can certainly attest to that this year. And with the wheat board gone, it's fair to wonder where the rail revenue cap might be next. The point of all this is that we need to look seriously at the cost-benefit equation. Is there any vision for public policy that can benefit farmers in the absence of a CWB single desk? Or will these benefits just automatically appear out of the free and open market? Well, they certainly haven't before. And these are the questions that need to be answered. We as farmers have something of great value in the Canadian Wheat Board, and it may be taken away. Once it's gone, it will be gone forever. The Wheat Board, as you know it, will no longer exist. Something may or may not be created in its place, but it will not be remotely the same. It will not be focused on maximizing returns for the benefit of farmers in Western Canada. It will be focused on providing benefits to its owners and shareholders, whoever they might be. So what is the value of the CWB? As you heard earlier, the best estimates by our best economists put it at least $500 million per year. And as a director, I do see the internal numbers, and I can say that I'm not surprised. I know how a centralized sales strategy works for our benefit in the international marketplace, and our trading competitors have been after us for years to give it up. Well, they're not saying very much now, but I would suspect that they can't believe their good fortune. So will you be compensated for this loss, that loss in value? And has this government done any real consultations with farmers? Aside from the hard financial losses in terms of price premiums, there is much more at stake. Instead of receiving all the profits from the sale of our grain, we will instead be paid by grain companies. Then their owners and shareholders will take a cut, but we won't even know what that is. And some of you might welcome wheat marketing that functions the same as canola, but are you sure? When there's a $40 a ton basis on canola, do you know why? Do you know what that is composed of? Is there any price transparency here? Many assume that the basis moves simply due to the invisible hand of the market. But of course, within that basis is profit margin. You will never know how much that is in a ton of canola. And if the federal government has its say, you won't know how much that is in a ton of wheat. And I can tell you that is the most closely guarded secret in the trade. I want to remind you here that getting rid of the CWB single desk does not mean that you're suddenly free of marketing costs, freight rates, or grain handling levies. You just will not know what they are. So what else do we stand to lose? As has been pointed out, risk management is extremely important in a volatile marketplace. The government guarantees that we currently benefit from don't cost the federal government, the current taxpayers, one red cent. But it does save farmers millions of dollars a year in borrowing costs. Producer cars and short-line railways. Who is going to care whether farmers have the right and the ability to successfully load producer cars? Who's going to make that happen? There's nothing in it for the railways, or the grain companies, or the federal government, apparently. Market development and branding. Why exactly would any grain company invest in branded Western Canadian wheat when that investment will benefit its competitors as much as it will benefit itself? Orderly marketing. Coordinated grain movement to keep the system from jacking up the rates to discourage movement when everyone wants to ship at once. Equity and delivery opportunity. Quality assurance. Large-scale pooling. Farmer-focused marketing. These are just some of the benefits that I want you as farmers to think about. And who is going to have a vested interest in that big picture, in the long-term view? and for farmers' ability to maximize their returns from the global grain market. What about rail issues? Who will take on a level of service complaint against the railways, which currently are about $1 million to go into that, or lobby for a real costing review? And what about trade challenges? The Canadian Wheat Board has won 13 or 14, depending on how you count, trade challenges with their neighbors to the south. If and when that happens again, who will step up to the plate to take that role? Who out there has the capability, the resources, and the expertise needed to take on a huge issue like the trade challenge? In short, we're looking at losing our own multi-billion-dollar marketing organization. We do stand to gain the ability to sell our wheat to a handful of grain companies who do not have our interests at heart and whose first obligation is to shareholders and not farmers. And by the way, have a legal obligation to deliver value to those shareholders. And the ironic part in all of this, I believe, is that we will actually have fewer choices and less freedom in a marketplace that's becoming more and more consolidated all the time. Instead of having our own monopoly through selling together, we may well find ourselves on the outside looking in. I think I'll stop there now and be happy to take questions. Back to you, ladies.
Thank you, Ellen. Now we are going to move to the second part of the meeting, which is the question and answer. I am going to take first-time questioners or people with comments before we move into individuals who have already made a comment tonight, just so we can give everyone an opportunity. Just a reminder that please state your name and where you are from. 2 minutes for a question or a comment. We will start with microphone 1.
Hi there, my name is Rachel Notley. I am the NDP Opposition Agricultural Critic, and I'd like just to make a couple of comments. I'd like to start first by thanking the members of the board for the presentation that they've given here tonight. It's been very informative and it's been very open, and I've learned even more. And it's rare that you hear politicians say that they learn even more. But so thank you for that. I'd also like to say, in terms of the issue of the single desk marketing, I know that there are some people in this room who don't support the single desk. And although as a politician one is typically inclined to try and be all things to all people, I need to at this point just make a point that with all due respect, we're going to have to agree to disagree, because the NDP's position on the Canadian Board single desk is that we support it unequivocally, and that we've done everything that we possibly can in this legislature in Alberta to discourage our provincial Tory government from pursuing and lobbying in favor of the elimination of the single desk with their federal cousin. There has been already some mention about the fact that the Manitoba government has already been working and lobbying the NDP government there to protect the single desk. And I just want to let you know that that kind of work in our role as opposition will continue here in Alberta. But the final point that I just want to make is that the provincial governments do have a role. They have influence in Ottawa. They have the ability to put forward a position. They have the ability to lobby. And we are on the eve of a provincial election as well. And your current provincial Conservative government is very much completely and unequivocally in support of eliminating the single desk. And so I urge you to make sure that this issue is on the agenda in the next provincial election coming up in the next month and a half, and that you hold your MLAs accountable for the position that they are taking to this point. The elimination of the single desk is not in the best interest of Alberta farmers, and you need to tell your Conservative government members right now that they won't get re-elected if they continue on the road that they're on. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman at microphone 2, and I will remind people that we are going to take first-time questioners first, but go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Greg Karosny. I farm at Willingdon, Alberta. Comment first, I was a former director with the Canola Council of Canada for a couple of years, and I'm well aware of how well the Canola Council of Canada marketed canola throughout the world